करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Good morning to everyone. We have a very special program today, and we are discussing Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, values for reforming multilateralism and creating a new world order. So that's a large theme, but there is a reason why we chose this theme. And you would remember, some of you had participated in this, and Foreign Secretary Shashank is here. Goel Saab is here. We had set up some years ago a small group to really focus on the Indian values and how they can contribute to an Indian narrative about the world, particularly in the context of international relations. And we had two major conferences and some other meetings in the year 2018, 2019. That resulted in a lot of thinking, good papers. In fact, this is, some of you may have seen, this is one of the books we brought out, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Relevance of India's Ancient Thinking to Contemporary Strategic Reality. So we wanted to carry on with this line of thinking. And today, we're very happy that under G20, India's presidency of G20, we have actually Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam as the overarching theme. The world, for the first time at that level, is hearing what Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is. And of course, there is a tagline of one planet, one family, one future. And when we speak to people, our diplomats and so many others, there is curiosity as to what does this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam mean, where does it come from, etc. So I think it is getting some global recognition. Now, of course, when we were discussing this idea at that point of time, in 18, 19 and so on, there was a lot of discussion whether this concept is relevant at all. There are many diplomats here, military people and so on. And of course, the way geopolitics is today shaping up, there is a huge concern about the conflict escalating. And last few days, there have been some events. So geopolitics is today totally devoid of values. And of course, they're very powerful people. There are a lot of, so Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, whether this is relevant at all. I mean, that's the other side of the question. It's just a airy-fairy idea. Are values at all relevant to international relations? Or somebody might say that values are, the West also talks about values, they talk about democracy, they talk about UN Charter and so on. So there are some values there, respect for national territorial sovereignty, territorial integrity and so on. So these are also values, democracy, etc. But I think in our thinking, and particularly when you bring in environment, you bring in relations amongst people, how we should live together, and what really Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in overarching theme, I think it resonates with. And also, if you recall, some of you might have, in fact, in that seminar, one of our participants had mentioned a concept, and Bhatyaji is here, a concept of Ubuntu, which is a Swahili word and which means roughly the same thing as Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, roughly the same thing. So other people also have thought that way. And I was very pleased to discover very recently, when I was going through some Prime Minister's Man Ki Baat lectures, that Prime Minister himself had mentioned Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and Ubuntu in the same breath in one of his early lectures. I think given probably, I can't remember the date. So there was this, that means he has also absorbed this, and probably he's talking about this with others as well. Anyhow, so that is the background, and I thought we should, now that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a G20 theme, we should revive this and carry on our discussion without being, starry-eyed about this. That is also there. And I do remember Guru Murthy ji at that point of time had given a keynote to that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, a very overarching, broad-based keynote, in which he had pointed out to one aspect which is very relevant, that there's what we call the paradox of tolerance. That if you tolerate the intolerance, that tolerance itself will vanish. So I think that's also a very thing. There is also the geopolitics, all of us understand very well. But still, is there a place for the values? So, and particularly when we are saying we are, entering Amrit Kal, when we have to develop a new narrative for ourselves in every field, then should we not dip into this kind of a values? Because I think value-based narrative is likely to be stronger, more durable, and you'll be able to defend it better than otherwise. So this is the idea that we had in mind. So we have set up this discussion today. And I'm most grateful to Guru Murthy ji and Swami Mitrananda ji for being with us today and for this inaugural part of our discussion. And Guru Murthy ji requires no introduction. All of you know him very well. He's the chairman of our trust and a leading thinker. And he has spoken on these subjects umpteen number of times. And I think in some sense, he had set up this debate in the country. And you would have seen his discussions with Arnab Goswami some weeks ago on Republic TV, and which went viral, where some of the very fundamental themes which touch the world order, he had mentioned, and this is part of his many other lectures. So thank you, sir, for being with us, and I request you to kindly conduct this session. But our very special speaker today is Swami Mitrananda, who has come all the way from Chennai and who is going to give us a inaugural address today on the theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And we have a very special attachment to Swamiji, and he has been giving us almost monthly lectures on the Gita for the last, I think, more than a year. And when we set up this lecture series, some of these ideas we discussed, and we are still on Adhyay 4. We thought that we will finish Gita in a few lectures, but I think we are going to go have it several years. That is because the depth in which he goes for each of the verse, and it has been so relevant for our youngsters, particularly the youngsters, and I speak to them after the talk and before the talk, etc. And I think जो सोच में परिवर्तन है वो एक गीता के माध्यम से गुरु जी ने, स्वामी जी ने उसमें लाए हैं. And he is going to talk. Of course, there are many parts to his personality. He is a spiritual teacher of Chinmaya Chennai, director National Projects All India Chinmaya Yuva Kendra, and the publisher of Chinmaya Udghosh, an international youth magazine. And I'm very happy that Kumkumji is also here. She's also editing one of Chinmaya's, what's the name of that magazine? Tapovan Prasad. So I accidentally came to know that she's of course wife of Bhatia ji, and we met her some time ago. So I requested her to come, and thank you for joining us today. So we want to carry on this discussion, and Swamiji has been involved with the youth empowerment programs and has trained more than 300 youth to serve India, and is traveling all over the country, holds the youth camps, etc. But interesting point about his lectures, which we have heard here, is that he is able to connect to the youth and talk about their problems and also converse with them, and I think guide them. So he's a spiritual guide and leader. And what he does fits in beautifully with the work of this think tank, which, as you know, is very broad-based, and we are covering a lot of topics Of course, national security, etc., remain our core issues. International relations remain core issues. But to bring in the new narrative, new thinking, new soch, I think Kurumurti ji and people like Mitrananda ji, their contribution is great because we are always learning and we are taking it in so many directions. So thank you very much for being with us, and I now request Gurumurti ji to kindly take over and conduct the session.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. My namaskarams to Swami Mitrananda, with whom my association dates to more than 3 decades. Fortunately, he, being stationed in Chennai, was available to all of us, and we have grown greatly under his capacity to communicate difficult things in an understandable language for common people like us. So I am very happy to share the stage with him, and he's going to explain the core idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam as we see in our ancient literature, thought, value systems, functioning model. So I will try and see how to connect that great traditional idea to the contemporary world. Because unless this connect is there, we will be just searching the archives for something which was great once, which may or may not have any relevance today. But as the world stands today, it is absolutely without ideas. It has run out of all the ideas which have been generated in the last few centuries. And I don't think anyone in the world is sure about how the world is going to move after having had this kind of the determined way of moving forward. In fact, such a great brain as Henry Kissinger, who shaped the post-Cold War order, or first post-World War order, and also the post-Cold War order, he said that the world order will be permanently restructured. It will change forever. No one knows change into what. It will change forever. It will get permanently restructured. And George Soros went to the extent of saying that the Western civilization might collapse. I don't understand the connect between the world order and Western civilization unless it meant the same thing. So the Western civilization had propounded, expounded, ordained, controlled the world through a set of principles which it sees at risk today. It is not that a world order, however bad it is bad because of an order is needed for the world. Even if it is a Western order, it has somewhat sustained the world. Maybe not as efficiently as it should have, but the world order today is in tatters, is something which is an admitted fact. So in my view, it is in this situation, in this context, in this compelling background, that there is a need to recall whether we have something to contribute to the world order that is likely to emerge, and whether we can put some sense into the contemporary world thinkers, because India has now acquired a certain status by virtue of its long-standing proof as a nation that has not harmed anyone, a civilization that has been inclusive, a diversity which makes India more diverse than the rest of the world put together. This kind of, the assets which have been built on our spiritual, civilizational, cultural basis, whether it can be leveraged to present a way and a view of life is what I will try to present. For me, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is not just an ideal to be recalled. I see it as a practical and functioning reality. If I am not able to demonstrate that it is functioning today, it is working today, it is working in India, and it can work in the world, I don't think we need to meet and discuss here. It can be left to some religious scholars to discuss it elsewhere. It is only because we feel that it is a functioning reality. It is the basis on which India lives. It is the basis on which India connects itself to the wide diversity of the people. Unless I am able to demonstrate this, I think there is no purpose in talking about the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. You know, this concept, as Swamiji will explain to you, originated in the Rig Veda, which is variously estimated, undoubtedly before 4,000 years. Somebody thought that that the other person is different from me is an idea of the narrow-minded person. A person who has a long and a broad history of thinking will never think the other person is different, and he will think the earth is one family. This one distinction we have to bring about. It is now broadly understood Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam means world as one family. It is not correct. It is the earth as one family. There is a huge difference between the two. Vasudha is earth. It is not the world. This earth as one family as a concept is very different from world as one family, because there is no being connected as world nations being one, committee of nations, some kind of a new idea of a United Nations. No, it's a much more fundamental philosophy that connects everything in the world, in the earth, within itself, and also with ultimately with the very process of creation of the universe. This is what I am going to demonstrate to you, that philosophically it means something very different from what it is being discussed as. And two, it is not a philosophy but a functioning reality. This will be the basis on which I will be presenting myself today. So now you look at, it is not just, as I said, a social concept of the world as one family. It is everything that is in the world being interrelated and constitutes a family. There is a Vedic and scientific view in this. I'll give you some small facts, because I'm not a great master who has studied Vedas, and I'm not a person who has studied great literature on environment. I'm not an expert in any particular field. But it is not necessary that you have to be an expert to understand, because the specialized silo-wise expert thinking has contributed to the greater confusion in the world in which the world is today. We need some generalists also. So it is in that sense, I think my views have some relevance to what I am going to tell you. Vedas said there are 8.4 million species. I mean, this all settled, and Swamiji will explain to you better. Till 1976, science admitted there could be something like 5.7 million species. Only in 2011, science said it could be 8.7 million. They have said still we have identified only 1.2 million. You must understand that there is an amount of convergence between what Vedas said 4,000 years ago, that there could be as many as 8.4 million species. And science is now coming somewhere close to it. It means that there is some basis for this. Vedas were not these abstract sounds which we heard through some English illiterate pundits. There is some truth. Otherwise, it would not have been sustained orally. It was not written. It was handed down from generation to generation, father to the son, from Ved Padashala to the students. It has survived. It has been hated. The language in which it is said was called by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru as a dead language. In the dead language, a literature which was there 4,000 years ago said something which science is trying to grasp, is something which we have to grasp. The second aspect is, we all do the Sankalpa mantra. Adya Brahmana, Dvidiya Varade, Shvedavara Kalpe, Vaivasvada Manmatre. These are all the things which some of us say. But all this means the convergence of time and space. It is calculated in Brahma's days. And we are now having, according to our calculation, 4.32 billion years have passed since the last 51st year of Brahma commenced. 4.32 billion years ago. When we said this, people said these are all great imagineers of time. But now, Carl Sagan, he came to India in 2001. I missed his lecture in Chennai because of my illness. And he said this is the only civilization which has somewhere near to calculating the time since the Big Bang. He connected this 4.32 billion years as the somewhat approximate or correct calculation of the time since the Big Bang, which is supposed to have been 4.39 billion years ago. You know, these are all not things which we know. So there is something in this civilization which has made our great rishis and seers see things which maybe we will discover as we meander along. So with this process, I'll tell you, this 8.4 million species, Padma Purana says it is in 6 categories. How important it is for our environment and ecological concerns, and how India has preserved its biodiversity and ecological and environmental assets as capital. I have to explain first by giving these figures. It divides, Padma Purana divides this 8.4 million species like this. First is aquatic, 0.9 million. Then trees, 2 million. Insects, 1.1 million. Birds, 1 million. Animals, 3 million. And humans, 0.4 million. Humans is part of nature. It is not independent of nature. It's not the master of nature. It is not the determiner of nature. It is the subject of nature, which the world says no. It is no more an anthropocentric world, but an ecocentric world. This ecocentric world is a concept which emanated in India and made human beings part of nature. And it went as far as to say, you are the trustee of all because you have a mind to think about all. This is how our environmental philosophy was conceptualized. And now, this idea that Earth is one family is complemented by another verse in Isavasya Upanishad, which says, Isavasyam idam sarvam yatkinjat jagatyam jagati tena takyena punjidaha magrada kasya siddhanam. Mahatma Gandhi said, if the Hindus lost all the Vedas, all the literature, everything, and only if this sloka is there, it will sustain them ever. You know what is the meaning of this? Everything down to the tiniest atom is the manifestation of God. This is the philosophy. Next is the environmental and economic rule. Tena taktena punjidaha mahagrada kasya siddhanam. Gentlemen, you can enjoy it, but you must understand there are others to enjoy it also. So you must take as little as possible so that you leave things to others to enjoy also. This is the way that we thought that when we have something, it is not only for ourselves. My mother always used to say when I was in the village, when there is water flowing all around, my mother used to say, don't waste water. The water is available so freely. My mother is saying, don't waste water. This is the ancient wisdom. You relate to nature, and there is a relationship between nature. It is not determined by contract. It's not determined by law. It is not determined by water rates of tax. It's something much deeper. So this example of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam has 2 dimensions. One is the earthly dimension. The other is the creative dimension. Isavasyam idam sarvam. The entire, whatever we see, is ultimately the manifestation of God. And what we see as water is not water, what we see as human body is not human being, what we see as this, everything ultimately disappears into atom. It cannot disappear if the atomic rays, if the atomic particles are not regular in their movement. Everything can disappear. This is what the modern quantum mechanics says. So we must understand that there is a creative philosophy, the philosophy of creation and the philosophy of earthly living both constitute the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It may still look like we are discussing a philosophy, a vision, maybe a conceptualized model. Now I will demonstrate to you that this is lived. If it is not lived, we can't live. This is what I am going to demonstrate to you. On irrefutable facts, I am not going to give you some approximations. See, let us look at India and the world. We have 2.4% of world's land area. Whether it is 2.4 or 2.5 may be a matter of dispute, but it is certainly between the two. And we have 18% of world's population, human population. We have 30% of world's animal population. We have 8% of world's bioresources. How is it that a 2.4% land area accommodates 18% of human population, 30% of cattle population, 8% of bioresources? It is something which is inconceivable, but it is real. What is it that makes this functional, workable? It is the relationship that we have established between this country, the man, the animals, the other species through a philosophy. How it is working, I will tell you. If you look at the total agricultural land available in the world, it's about 10.6% of the total land area of the world, of which 71% is used for cattle farming and only 29% is used for crop farming. The calorie value generated through crop farming, which is just 2.4% of the land area, 2.5% of the land area, is 83%. The 71% of the land area which is used out of the agricultural land that is available through cattle farming, which is producing meat, is just 17% of the total calorie value. If you look at the protein value, 63% of the protein value again comes from the crop area, and only 37% comes from the cattle farming area. Now you consolidate the food habits of the world. Our world in data.com, which is one of the most premier data centers, online data centers, supported by many Western universities and all that, with clear sources defined, says that if the Western food habits are adopted, in America, per capita consumption of meat is 109 kgs. In Europe, it is even higher. In South Africa, it is 182. In India, it is 3.1. Don't think India is a Hindu country and so. You look at Bangladesh, it is equally as poor as India, maybe 3.3 or 3.4. There is a cultural foundation to our eating. There is a food style. Even for the so-called non-vegetarian here, non-vegetarian is a sabji. Crop is the main food. This is a culture. This has been handed down. Our DNA has adjusted itself. We have recognized it. Our social relationship, our marriages, everything is defined in terms of our food. Food is sacred. Food is not secular. It is not to be rated in terms of rupees. It has to be understood in terms of how it is. The bhava is important. Because of that, our world in data.com says that if the Western food habits are adopted, we will need 40% more agricultural land than the world has today. But if the Indian food habits are adopted, we will need only 44% of the agricultural land that we are using today for agriculture. Imagine the huge contribution India is making. If we shift to the American way of food, McDonald's and burgers and things like that, we will need 6 times the agricultural land that we have today. That will be 2.4 times more than the land area of India itself. Is it workable? When we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we are related with nature, we are related with animals, we are related all the living species. We are 30% of the living species in India are not found anywhere in the world. So this is our food and environmental philosophy. And in a way, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam constitutes the functioning environmental capital. Because if you leave this and go to, now they say, the right to what food I will eat is my right. This mad thought has come. It has become fundamental right. It has become human right. Governments are afraid of talking about it. I'm sorry. So there is a fundamental understanding needed that the traditional Indian way has sustained the food economy, the environment, ecology, and it is functioning today. This is the Indian idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Now I will take you to the next step. In America, in 1960, there were 3.3 persons per household. It has come down to 2.5. This 0.8% reduction in the number of people meant 32 million more houses. 8.5 trillion is the additional housing investment. Of course, there are other things like whatever you need to make the house functional and its environmental impact. Now come to India. We have 4.9 persons per household according to 2011 census. And in 1951, it was 5.1. There was not much variation between 1951 and 2011. In fact, in 2021, in Bombay, the number of persons per household in Bombay had increased over the number of persons per household in 2011 itself because of the need to live together. This need to live together, this adjusting to live together, the relationship to live together, the culture to live together means that if there is 1% reduction per household in India, from 4.9 to 3.9, we will need 51 million more houses. If we reach the same position as America, 2.5, we will need 135 million more houses. We just can't afford. So Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is adjusting to live with each other, not only within the family, with the neighbors, with the surroundings. And it is working, functioning, without which we will not be living. We mean to say this is the way the economic departments function in India. Economic think tanks function in India. Governments function in India. You look at Human rights. Human rights was conceived in 1947-48, and a copy was sent to Mahatma Gandhi by H.G. Wells. He said, Mr. Gandhi, I would like you to endorse this. Mahatma Gandhi said, sent a small letter that I will endorse it provided you change the title into International Declaration of Human Duties. The reason he gave was duties include rights, rights exclude duties. You know, diversity of the world is sustained by relationship, and relationships are sustained by duties. Rights destroy relationships. It destroys the relationship between husband and wife, father and son, brother and sister. I have the right to lead the life I want to lead. You have the right to break the family. And that is considered to be modern. That is considered to be constitutional. That is considered to be legal. That is considered to be everything worth having in this world. But imagine if 50% of the sons and daughters in India decide to break away from the families. And if the entire elderly population is left to the care of the system, there will be no India. So Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam means self-restraint, which we call as dharma. These are all outdated words, but these are what are sustaining us, our economy, our polity, our society, our culture, our value systems. Ultimately, when you say value system, most of us think it has nothing to do with today. But that informs all the foundations of the contemporary structures, which the constitution doesn't recognize, the law doesn't recognize, the public discourse doesn't recognize, the intellectuals do not recognize, particularly not the English educated intellectuals. Now an occasion has come for India because of G20 leadership to talk about this. But are we prepared? Have we the intellectual wherewithal and the conviction and the resources to talk about these things? You know, the world did not know about diversity till 2001. The first document on diversity of United Nations was Cultural Diversity Convention in 2001. And it contained a small clause where human rights and cultural diversity conflict, human rights will prevail. Then there will be no diversity. Diversity is based on relations. And rights destroy relationship. Has anyone discussed these things? So the world order is created based on a certain formulation, certain assumptions. The ideological tussle between the free world and the fascist and Nazist world produced the current world order and the thinking and the ideology that is driving the world and which has created a huge crisis today. India has the responsibility to make it clear to itself and then to the world that, gentlemen, that we can't go in the way in which we have been going for the last 100 years and more. We have to look at a different direction, and I think that we have enormous possibilities of convincing ourselves and the world. There is enough empirical evidence to show that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a functioning reality in India, and without which India will not be functioning. This we must be clear. I think all of us have this responsibility. I'm sorry, my throat let me down. I think I could complete my speech not to your satisfaction, at least to my satisfaction. Thank you.
So I think the request now.
My salutations to Guru Murthy ji and to everyone present here. Pranam, good morning. Thank you for having me here. I am so very happy that I could be with you this morning. This statement, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, is from Maha Upanishad of Rig Veda. Where it actually means is, if you think this is my bandhu, this is my relative, and this one is not mine, if this kind of a thought is there, then that is very narrow-minded. Lagu chetasam. Such people are considered very petty-minded. He who sees the world in divisions is seen petty-minded. Before I proceed into more discussion on this, I would like to bring into your attention two incidents in Shankara's life, Adi Shankara, who spoke about oneness of the world. Shankara's philosophy is one, which was there in the Rig Veda, which was there in all the Vedas, which was there in Ramayana and Mahabharata, which Shankara exponented it very well to make us understand that we are just one. This entire creation is one. Advaita, there is no two. Dvaita means two. Advaita, there is no two, it's just one. So when this little 8-year-old Shankara walks from Kerala, Ernakulam, all the way to Omkareshwar, Madhya Pradesh. Imagine an 8-year-old child walking from Ernakulam in Kerala to Madhya Pradesh in search of truth, leaving the known and seeking the unknown. 8-year-old boy. What must be that journey? And then in the banks of Narmada in Omkareshwar, he met his guru, Govindapad. And Govindpadji was in meditation, so Shankara has to wait for some time. And then when Govindpadji came out, he saw a child standing in front of him. And then in all love, he asked, my dear child, who are you? Like imagine someone meditating. You open your eyes, there's a small kid standing and looking at you. So naturally, Govindpadji asked, my dear child, who are you? And what Shankara said is Nirvan Shatakam. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am not this, I am not that. I am Chidananda Rupoham. This is the answer. Who are you? I am neither of all this. I am that pure consciousness. I am in front of you. The teacher was thoroughly impressed because never before you would have seen a resume or an introduction that way. How do we introduce ourselves? Resume, Chidananda Rupoham. Who are you? The boy went and said, he was brilliant. He was thoroughly impressed. This is one incident of a general introduction. Who we are. I'm coming to that point. Second, Shankara, by then, after being with his guru for 3 years, he became a master, started writing commentaries on the Prasthanatraya and all that. And then he was traveling across India on Hindu Renaissance. So in his travel, when he came to Karnataka, he met a boy, a 14-year-old, who was considered to be a dumb person, who never speaks, probably slightly mentally challenged, because he was living on his own world, never speaking to anybody, laughing by himself. He was just living that way. So when he came there, his parents came to him, to Shankara, and he said, please bless this boy. From childhood, he has not spoken a word. He stays remote by himself, keeps laughing, and doesn't communicate with anybody. Shankara looks at him, and Shankara understood what kind of a boy this is. He smiled and he said, my dear child, please tell me who you are, just like his guru. See, this is the continuity. Shankara is asking this boy, my dear child, who are you? Please tell me, who are you? Kim namate kuta agatosi? who are you and from where have you come? This boy, 14-year-old child, this is Bharat. This is that oneness we talk about. He's meeting his guru. Till then, he has never opened his mouth. Speaks. Naham manushye na cha deva yakshaha. Na brahmana kshatriya vaishya shudra. Na brahmachari na grihi na vanastaha. Bhikshur na chaham nicha bodha rupaha. Have you ever seen an introduction of this kind? Naham manushya. I'm not just a human that way. Nor yaksha, nor deva, nor the four castes, nor the four orders of life, brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. No, I am pure consciousness. Nicha bodha rupaha. This pure consciousness is the base. When we recognize that base, we recognize Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that everybody is one divine family. For us who understands this, the creator is divine, the created is divine. This has to sink in today's world. There is a difference. Created is negated as not divine. Our thought was the created is divine because there is no difference. It is the same thing which pervades everywhere. Guru Murti ji beautifully quoted Isavasya Upanishad. Isavasyam idagam sarva. This consciousness wraps everything. And this is a normal, like small things we see in our country. It doesn't require, like today, the world sitting together to discuss this oneness, which is such a common knowledge in Bharat. In a temple, remote temple, particularly in north of India, in a remote temple, there will be one pujari doing a puja and probably some 10-15 people would be standing there and some children would have come to take prasad. And the pujari, after the puja, he'll say, Sanatan Dharma ki. And all the children will say, Jai Ho. Dharma ki, Jai Ho. Adharma ki, Vinash Ho. Sab Santana ki, Jai Ho. Vishwaka. Who's saying this? I mean, the Panditji after Aarti is saying Vishwaka Kalyana Ho will be the chorus of all children. Sabhi praniyan ko. Huh? This is what the United Nations is trying to talk. You understand? Huh? They are not. Okay. This is what we want them to talk. Huh? Sabhi praniyan ko. This is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Sabhi prani, not just humans. Humans are custodians. Like Guru Murti ji said, trustees. Because we have the intellect which can think. They don't have an intellect, they can feel. Plants, animals, Stavara Jangama feels. Intuition is there. Intuitively they feel. A cow knows to protect its little one. A bird knows to protect. Intuitive knowledge of feeling is there. Intellect is not there to think. That the only species is we. So naturally it is our responsibility to guard, to take care of this entire universe. If this knowledge is there with us, then we should behave like the custodians. What we did, we behaved like exploiters. To which extent we exploited the nature? To which extent we went to conquer the earth? Conquering earth is not the right thing. Serving the earth is important. Our culture is serve earth. We look at earth as mother. The feeling, mother meaning the feeling what you have to your mother, transfer the same feeling to earth because she also does the same to you. She is so tolerant. In Avadhuta Gita, one of the lessons we learn from earth is got patience, tolerance, accommodates everybody. No matter what I do, my mother will not let me down. My mother will accommodate me still. I can be the worst of the person, but she will not throw me out. She accommodates. Earth accommodates. So our feeling to earth should be like how we have the feeling towards our mother. Now look at the value. Our feeling for rivers should be like what we have feeling towards mother. Mother Ganga, isn't it? All rivers are seen as mothers. This is the feeling. And this means have that kind of a feeling, take care of them well, guard them well, protect them well. But somewhere we moved that created is not divine. We can do what we want because the rest of the creation is made for my pleasure. Now that idea has to change. That this entire creation is made for me. Ricky Cage is here. And I simply like what he said when he got the Grammy. You have to say something in the world stage when the world is watching you. And there he said, this planet is not just for humans. Imagine when you receive a Grammy award, when all the cameras are focused on you, there you say this world is just not for human beings. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is not a relationship between human beings. It's plant, it's animal, it's birds, every other organism. Now that's a brilliant strategic message you conveyed when the entire world had eyes on you. I mean, that's very, very nice thing to do. This is what we need to take this and tell the people, this is not a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, is not a statement of glory. It's not a statement of praise in somebody. It's not a statement of glory. I would go ahead and say it is not even a statement of moral. That, to maintain harmony with people, therefore we said we are one family. It's a statement of fact. Like fire is hot. Ice is cold. We are one family is a statement of fact. It is not a statement of glory. It's a fact. The creator and the created are same. Creator only has expressed himself as the created. From God, only God manifests. From gold, whatever you take will be gold only. There is a lump of gold. You take a small piece, it will be gold. You take a small piece and make a chain, gold chain. You make a ring, gold ring. From gold, whatever comes out will be gold. From gold, we cannot bring copper. From gold, we cannot bring iron. From gold, only gold will come. From God, what do you think will come? Only God is there. What will come from God? God alone can come. So we have understood this and we say the created is divine for us and the creator is divine. Let's keep the same bhava towards both. This is the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. How do we do this? Guru Murthy ji, here I have some suggestions. Because on the G20, one of the verticals is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and we are coordinating it. And you will be hand-holding us on this. I have thought of few things. One of the suggestions is, how do we take this across? In our schools, across our country, or even in other international schools, they have a program called Model UN. It's popularly known as Mock UN. Mock UN, mock parliament. Sir, it is not a mock, okay? That has a negative connotation. Mock UN. They are conducting in school mock UN. No. Original name was Model UN. Model Youth Parliament. Let us do in our schools, speak to the concerned people, Model G20. From now onwards, till the G20 leaders come, let every school start working on Model G20. Guru Murthy ji, like if you have to speak to the MHRD or wherever, this has to be taken up. And we will start, let the schools get involved into the main dialogue of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Let's bring it to the school level today. Class 6 and above, because you need a little kind of a maturity to analyze this topic. 6th and above, one day they celebrate, they observe Model G20. What do? 6th and above will discuss Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in their class level. In classroom, let them discuss and let the teacher give one problem. This is a problem in the world. And this is what is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. How can this problem be solved? Let the 6th standard children discuss. In the lines of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, how do we solve this? Give another problem for 7th standard. So 6th to 12th, one issue we will give and make them discuss in the classroom level what can be the solution. Let the teachers record what the children are saying. We never know what kind of solutions can come from those minds because those minds are still young, not conditioned by other things. There is a natural, spontaneous divinity. And the young children can come up with some of the solutions. But more or less, at school level, we have started a dialogue on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, a G20 motto. And in the evening, mornings, half a day can be this kind of a discussion at classroom level. Afternoon, all the parents can be invited. And 20 children, senior classes, 11th or 12th standard children, could be called to represent each nation, just like how they hold a model UN, this can be done. And this way the parents come and watch and the children conduct a G20 model in their schools. A tremendous awareness can happen through this. In the last school in a remote village, let us say somewhere in Arunachal, imagine children talking Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and they conduct this model G20. This method can definitely reach masses, the schools and the parents. At least we have brought in a kind of a dialogue into the mainstream, saying this is something important. This is one thing we can do. Second thing, we have listed down few areas where we can work on this. One is we are holding different seminars across our country to invite people to speak on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in different sub-themes. One is education. How do we bring this idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that the creator and the created are divine, at school level? What should we do to bring this to the kindergarten level? What should we do to bring this to the primary school? How do we bring this? Let us invite people, different minds, to think and suggest how this can come into our curriculum. At what level I should break this down for a child to understand at the kindergarten level or at the primary school level how we are just one family. This is important, not just in us. If we can do this and make a good policy draft on education based on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the government of India, when it is hosting G20 leaders, can be a topic for discussion. Implementation. One is education. Second, Gurumurthy ji brilliantly brought out the importance on ecology. On 29% land available, 20% is the livable land. In that 10% or so goes for agriculture. The rest is where we have occupied. And if we don't change our tastes of living, we are not talking vegan, we are not talking vegetarianism. Let the non-vegetarian food continue, because when I started talking to someone said, so what, after G20 you will tell us to be vegetarians? I said, never. Why? 75, I mean, you so beautifully said, 75% are non-vegetarians. Slightly shift from your stable diet of non-vegetarian to a side dish of non-vegetarian. This shift, do it for Earth. Because our life as a custodian, as a trustee, it is a yajna. In yajna, I give more than what I take. Giving more is yajna. Taking more is not the life. We have become selfish by taking more. Ma grida kasya svidhanam. The Isavasya Upanishad, the mantra says, do not covet what belongs to others. Let me give more. Let us bring this into discussion. In ecology, this has to be brought out, that we have a duty to give, giving more than what we take. If we can do that, then it is my duty. Today it is my right. Then it comes to my duty with that bhava of yajna, sacrifice. I will consume little and produce more. And very, very important statistics, what Gurumurti ji said is the number of households, number of people living in households. This needs to be understood. If we start reducing the numbers, which land? Where do we go for land now? And why again it is two people, my right. We have lived collectively together. My right has to be sacrificed into my duty. In my performance of my duty, your rights are protected. When I do my duty well, your rights are protected. When you do your duty well, my rights are protected. So it is highly important. We should shift this from human rights. That word itself should go. Human responsibilities. Because right is not the right, is not the right approach. It's not the right word. My right, my right. What about my duty? So if the parents perform their duty well, child's rights are taken care. When the children perform their duty well, parents' rights are taken care. The dialogue has to shift from right to duty. We need to bring this. And we have a duty to ecology. Whether it is our lifestyle of living together or our lifestyle of food habits. In all this we need to bring. So ecology is another area where we need a lot of discussion to gather points to make a good policy draft. Third one is education, ecology, ethics, dharma. Gurumurti ji, here I suggest Acharya Sabha and our Hindu Spiritual Service Fair. We should have a meeting with them, either on Zoom or something, and tell them, now start the dialogue. This goes on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam from Dharma standpoint. Because they have large following. These spiritual teachers have large following. They need to connect education and ecology into Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Lifestyles has to be brought into it. So a meeting with them to take this up would be very, very important. So third one is dharma, ethics. Fourth one is very important, entertainment. That's where, like through entertainment, Ricky is conveying a message. We need to bring into mainstream entertainment this topic. In 1950s, Hollywood decided that they will make movies which will highlight as the Americans are the superhero. A conscious decision made, and that narrative went through everywhere. Even if our planet is being attacked, nobody from our land will go up and fight. American will go and fight. And this is conveyed. Any aliens attacking, conveyed. And imagine small children watching, believed it. The motive was something different. Here our motive is noble. Our motive is noble. Motive is, let us convey the truth, a fact that we are one family. This has to be brought into entertainment and media. So we are meeting people. This is another area of our sub-theme, entertainment and media, where we are inviting speakers to speak in these lines. So education, ecology, ethics, entertainment, and media. The fifth one is economics. business, trade, economics. How economically we can look at it? Can we bring in these principles, living principles? Ma grida kasya svidhanam is not a statement made for harmony. It is a statement made for practical living. Do not covet what belongs to others. Business ethics. Dharma in business have to be brought in. My greed should not dominate. Overall interest should dominate. Together let us prosper. Together let us shine. This has to come. So we invite people in the field of economics to discuss how this feeling of one family, that this whole universe is just one, brought inside. See, I'm going little out of the topic. You know how the Vedic mantras came, which we revere so much, Vedas, irrefutable statements, brilliant statements. You know how it came? It came when the person was quiet. It was not born out of our intellect. There are thoughts which come from our intellect. There are thoughts which come when our intellect is silent. When our intellect is silent, quiet, certain things gets revealed. Those are downloads from the divine. You will understand it correctly. What are Vedas? In today, for your understanding, they are downloads from the divine. It downloads to you when you are silent. That's why the Rig Veda Rishis or Yajur Veda Rishis or Atharvana or Samaveda, none of those Rishis gave their name to the mantras. They said, no, it is not born out of me. It came in spite of me when I was silent. When I was absolutely quiet, it revealed. So it's not me, the author. Look at the honesty, intellectual honesty. The nobility of such people saying, I was sitting quietly, it came. Now, when we talk about Yuga, 4 billion years ago, this was a creation, or Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years to go. Please understand, these are not calculations made by human minds with equipments, measurements. No, these are things happened when the mind was quiet. If Yajnavalkya Rishi, in his silence, he said, the distance between earth and the sun is 108 suns. He did not measure, nor did he have an instrument, nor did he have anything else. It was silent, it revealed. When Yajnavalkya said, the diameter of the sun can accommodate 108 earths, it's a statement which came, it's a direct download. It's not from his intellect. Now, these downloads, science is acknowledging as facts. You understand? The science is acknowledging these Vedic downloads as facts today. So this is how the statement came. So in that kind of a quietude, the divine download was Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in Maha Upanishad. It's that Rishi in his silence, he said, so it is a statement of fact. So we need to bring the statement of fact in the field of education, ecology, economics, entertainment and media. And we need to harness. Another sub-theme we have taken up is, which are the traditions of earth? Who is revering earth? Which are the traditions across earth, reveres earth, earth revering tradition? Because that's our past. In many, many places, when the pagan religions were there, they were revering earth. The literature available in Native America, Red Indians, whom we call Native Americans, on earth. Australian Aborigines on earth. So earth revering traditions, we need to highlight, because that was our past. In between, we would have lost it. But so we are working on collecting information and bringing people who can talk to us on these are the traditions, civilizations across the world as revered earth. So that is another sub-theme we have. And then we have art, culture, and literature. Through art, culture, and literature, how this one Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we can bring it in. So we are calling scholars to talk about it, how this can be done. And living oneness. Okay, now that's a living oneness is Advaita. But across the world, people have understood that word, living oneness. So we are trying to connect globally people who have this idea of living oneness, one consciousness. So that is another sub-theme. And the last one is sports. How do we involve sports personalities to demonstrate and be ambassadors of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam? Because they have large followers. Yadyadacharati shreshtaha, taddadeve tarojanaha, itarojanaha. These people, what they said, people follow. So they are all ambassadors for different products. Let them, we'll request, we'll talk to them. Let them be ambassadors of goodwill. Let them be ambassadors of demonstrating to the world we are one. After all, most of the game starts with love all, isn't it? You see that? Table tennis, how do you start? Love all. Badminton, love all. Volleyball, love all. And then you shake hands. Whether you lose or win, let them demonstrate the spirit of one family while performing and even after the game. What all it needs to do, they should do. So we are calling people from these 9 areas to give us ideas, suggestions, so that we can compile them and see how well we can make a draft of it, which can be given for recommendation. It was nice talking to you. Thank you very much.
So we have a few minutes. Maybe we can have some discussion. If somebody wants to say something, yes, please. Kindly introduce yourself.
Namaskaram. I am Rakesh Bhatia, but after listening to Swamiji, I have to say I do not know who I am. I am still a seeker.
Your consciousness.
Pure consciousness. Dwelling on what Swamiji has said, I have few points. The greeting that we have in the Hindi language is Namaste, which disintegrates into Namaha Astu. The divinity in me greets the divinity in you. We are one, we are the form of the creator, we are as divine as the creator himself is. Namaste says it all. The second part I have is about the Western model of education that you pointed out is all about materialism. The father tells his child, would you please mow the lawn today? And the son comes back asking, what are you going to pay to me? It doesn't happen in India. We are an institution of gurukuls. When the first school in England was started, India had more than 3 lakh gurukuls, and that the ambience of nature itself creates the affinity with the nature and the oneness of the universe. So we need to sort of look at some of those ideas when we are transforming our thought processes away from the Western world of education into the Indian way. Yes, we are all one. One statement says it all, and that statement is Om Brahm Satyam. The universal energy called as Brahm or whatever other name is the only truth. Everything else which is changing is not truth, and it is felt within as Om, that the whole world now recognizes. Even the sun's sound, when it has been found, is Om. Thank you.
Yes, please. There.
Jai Sri Krishna. I'm very thankful and I'm grateful that I'm attending this today's seminar. And I have written one mail to Shri Gurumurti ji about we are working on a concept of a Go Kendrit that is related to the village, the cows and the farmers. We are trying to build up one platform for the entire nation that because working on any single platform, it is very difficult in today's era. Teaching to the farmer is very impossible and very difficult task. So we are trying to build a village resource centers, and from the forum we are expecting some mentoring part because we are working on the gobar, cows, deshi govonsh, and related to the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we are working on the food habits. That shall be the food shall be created with the good emotions. That I think that is a great connect with the forum which we are working on the, and this came actually in my silence. I have received these thoughts, so so that's why I have written all this by the brand name of Rahul Gautam. My name is Rahul Amrutkar, but not taking to the credits of this because I have received entire things in a silence, so I have not taken that credits also. So I'm very thankful, and I will be looking towards the mentoring part from the forum. We are trying to build up a kind of a momentum into this part, and somehow the central government is very positive in these things, and we are receiving good response. If the things has been given and delivered as some kind of a mentoring to our group, we have framed one agriculture startup also for this part. There are some organizations, social organizations are also connected with us, and we are recently connected with the Vivekananda Kendra also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ji.
इधर बातें सुनने को मिली। अयम निजो परो वेति गणना लघु चेत सा उदार चरित नामा तो वसुधैव कुटुंबकम। तो उसका आधार जो है उदार चरित होना है। ये उदार चरित होना है, इसके ये स्वयं अपनी प्रेरणा से ही आदमी होता है या इसके लिए बाह्य साधन इसमें सहायता करते हैं या उन साधनों को जुटाना पड़ता है, और उनको जुटाएं तो कैसे जुटाएं, या वन एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ अदर। सिर्फ अगर अंतर प्रेरणा ही है तो क्या, और इतनी वो मजबूत अंतर प्रेरणा है कि बाकी साधन फिर अपने आप ही आ जाए। तो उसके बारे में आपकी
Swami Ji, like to comment?
See, our simple value which we need to bring into our human psyche is what is compromise, what is sacrifice. In understanding rights and duties, this is very important. Our culture is a yajna culture. Yajna means sacrifice. We have grown Vedic yajna, havan, all this is sacrifice. Sacrifice means what? Giving up my interest for the benefit of others. Giving up the lower for the higher is sacrifice. Compromise is giving up the higher for the lower is compromise. Constantly we move around compromises, which is not good. We should both sacrifice. We see it everywhere. You see one of the noblest institutes we have is army, defense. What is their motivation? Nation first. And who's last? Who's last? You understand? Nation comes first, everything else comes, and me comes last. An absolute Vedic value, which is there in the army. And you see how disciplined they are, how powerful they are, and what a force. At every time they inspire us because they are based on this Vedic value. Me last. Nation first. Lower, higher. Give up the lower for the higher. Sacrifice. What we try to do is we compromise. We give up the higher values for lower interest. This is the trouble. This shift from sacrifice, compromise is important. Gurumurti ji.
No, I would say I would not like to put Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam or the idea of duty as an ideal. I see it very practically, as I said, in our very way of functioning of our family, our community. Without this, we won't be lasting as a nation, because for 6,68,000 villages and towns, we have only 14,800 police stations. You can't govern this country purely by law, courts. There is a social capital functioning, respect for parents, respect for elders, respect for teachers, respect for women. This is what is sustaining the society. This is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in functioning reality. In our institutions, we need ideals, because the institutions have ceased to be even practical. They are rule bound. So Swamiji is citing, see, a rule bound army is functioning on an ideal, Vedic ideal. This is for institutional functioning. I am only looking at how the society is functioning. It is functioning on the very principles which we think we have to discover. It is already there. In relation with nature, in relation with, simple statistics. If all Indians, as I said, refuse to take care of their parents, there will be 60 crore Indians who will be standing before Narendra Modi for 2 square meals a day. This is what is happening in America. Universal social security has to be arranged to take care of the elders, infirm, unemployed people, because there is no sense of relationship and belonging and owning one another, which is the very essence of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I come from a village. Even in the worst days of famine, in a village, no family, no child will go hungry because somebody else will feed them. I've seen it. So I am not talking about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam as something which has to be brought down from above. It is actually working, is my understanding of the Indian society, or most societies except the Western societies, which are rule bound, which are organization based, more efficient, and therefore has emerged as some kind of a global model which is disturbing the normal functioning of the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam at the ground level. This is my way of looking at it. Ricky has been.
Yeah, right.
एक केस लेते हैं और एक यहाँ से लेते हैं, please.
So my question, I've just got three points and questions. One is that about the food, I like the idea of about changing our relationship with our food in terms of sustainability and in terms of a better future. So I am a vegetarian now, but I've been a vegetarian only for the last 10 years. Before that, I used to eat meat. And when I first went to America, it was a huge cultural shock for me because when you go to a KFC, you see like everybody eating a bucket of chicken and a small piece of bread, Whereas in India, it was the exact opposite, where you would have a whole lot of other vegetables and carbohydrates and things like that. And then you would have a small piece of chicken. And it's the same thing with millets. Millets is within our culture. It's within us. And of course, it's less water intensive. It's better for the body, better for the planet. So I would suggest that maybe our Indian diets are better. So basically, maybe if we could have a soft diplomacy in terms of creating cookbooks, creating a new paradigm when it comes to diets and when it comes to actual dishes that people eat all over the world. Because right now the paradigm is basically continental and American food all over the world. That's supposed to be neutral, and everything else is a cuisine. When it comes to Chinese cuisine, when it comes to Indian cuisine and all of that stuff, why not make Indian cuisine the actual paradigm, and then everything else is a cuisine? So that is one suggestion. Second thing is that I love the idea of duties versus rights. But of course, the argument can always be that what about the people who are voiceless? that they need rights, and even if they have duties, they will be unable to perform them. So I guess it needs to be clarified that it is our duty to be the voice for the voiceless. That comes under duties. I think that needs to be made a little clear, because then I think because it's absolutely essential to put duties before rights. And lastly, when it comes to Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, I feel that there can be some examples from within the West which are inadvertent examples from the West. Like, for example, a symphony orchestra. A symphony orchestra has got all these instruments, like a violin is a soft instrument, a tuba is a very loud instrument, a timpani is a percussion instrument, you have a harp, which is a soft instrument. Each instrument is not trying to be one another. A violin is not trying to be a timpani is not trying to be a harp, but yet all of them come together in beautiful harmony as one orchestra, So maybe if you use these kind of examples, it'll be, the West will be able to understand the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam better, because it is inadvertently, there are some examples within the West which actually propagate Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That's it. Thank you.
I want to make one clarification. There is a difference between fundamental rights and human rights. The people who are alienated are because the government is not inclusive. So they have fundamental rights guaranteed under the Constitution. They have legal rights. It is guaranteed under the Constitution. But human rights break the societies. It breaks the families. It breaks communities. So human rights is an idea of Western civilization to atomize the whole world. And the entire 1.4 billion people of India cannot be atomized and brought under one rule. It requires a series of intermediary institutions between the individual and the state for public order to function. In the Constitution of India, public order has been distinguished from law and order. Law and order is the duty of the state. Public order is the combined duty of the society and the state. So we are talking about public order. So public order is a much larger idea where there is culture, where there is tradition, there is communities, there we have a reverence for parents, elders, teachers. All this constitutes part of the public and social order. There, don't bring in human rights. In law and order, fundamental rights. So fundamental rights and human rights should operate in two different fields. They have been mixed up. That's the problem.
I think we are running out of time. In the last, I'll just come to you in a moment.
So thank you to both the speakers. We have learned a lot of things. I am a teacher of economics in Indira Gandhi National Open University. And in economics, in neoclassical frameworks, all the theories are taught to the students where individualism, competition, consumerism is highly valued. The students are taught, whether in IGNOU or across the universities and IIMs and IMT, the syllabi has been formulated in such a way that the students are taught all these things, that more important, even the research methodology courses, scientific method is taught where values are dealing to the whole thing, objectivity, universalism. All these things lead to the environmental situation which we are facing. So my question is how to change that textbook approach in the university syllabus so that students are taught in a way. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is my question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll have a last comment now.
Gurumurti ji, Swami Mitranand ji, it was a brilliant exposition of a very ancient Indian wisdom, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And we have been blessed with this wisdom since times immemorial. I'm sure this wisdom was available with us when Bakhtiyar Khilji, with 200 people, attacked Nalanda, and after that, Udaygiri, and a whole lot of universities. Problem is that what you are talking is philosophy of life. It is a philosophy. And we live in a world which is full of ideologies. I do hear a jumla, a phrase, a formism, saying it is a post-ideology world. No, it is a world which is full of ideologies. And there is the ideology of Islam, There is the ideology which is propagated by the church. Then, of course, there is the ideology which is propagated by Vokes or the left or whatever you call the anarchists. And they are working to finish everything else because they all claim that they alone have the monopoly of truth. Up to this extent, I may be willing to accommodate them. But they go beyond that, that not only that they have the monopoly of truth, nobody else has the right even to exist. So how do we reconcile Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, a philosophy which is full of sacrifice, a philosophy which propagates duties and doesn't emphasize on rights, with this sort of ideologies which are not dormant, very, very active, and are willing to do anything possible to achieve what they think is correct. Thank you, sir.
I'll give two short answers. One is on neoclassical economics. Neoclassical economics is considered to be dead today. In 2009, The Economist magazine came out with a front page story that neoclassical economics is virtually dead. There is no functioning economic theory today. Everything is taught in schools and colleges. I don't think any government is following a neoclassical economic theory. And certainly there is nothing functioning at the global level. So the idea that a classical economic model common to all countries, all situations, all governments, that's gone. So economics has to change. It is economics which is in crisis. It is not an economic crisis. It's economics in crisis. The economic departments will get unsettled and maybe they will try and find out something. So far as Balbiji is concerned, I think when we discussed the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we said the limitation for Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam as a philosophy is the idea of intolerance. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is an idea of acceptance, but we are facing ideologies of intolerance. That's where Karl Popper said in 1945 that if tolerance tolerates the intolerant beyond a point, the tolerance will cease to exist. So we have to understand that the reality of intolerance has to be accepted. Once the reality of intolerance is accepted, then the ideologies of intolerance can be countered. This is what we discussed, and Mr. Gupta mentioned it at the start itself. Thank you.
See, we have enough evidences of this in the past. Like, for example, Ravan started the war. Ram finished it. Ram did not start the war. Ram finished the war and did not grab Lanka under Ayodhya. Made Vibhishan the king. That is the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It's not that sit quietly and get destroyed. You provoke, it has come to that point, then I have to reciprocate. And so the point here is, we finish a war. We don't start a war in the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. If the intolerance has to be handled that way, we need to do it. There's no option. Otherwise, we won't survive. So even Arjuna wanted to go away. And Krishna said, no way, you stay here and fight. So that is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam with a dharmic understanding. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much. Sorry, we can't take more questions. We'll have a short break and we'll reassemble at 12 o'clock for our next program, which is the panel discussion on some of these issues which Balbirji has just raised. How relevant is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam for today's geopolitics and things like that we'll discuss. So thank you very much. Namaskar. I'd like to present.
Why? What happens? So much talk.
15 days I have been having this.
Sorry, mention. This is actually Kendra's book, which we have abridged and published.
This is the original book,
Can I request owner of car number 3770 to please move their car at the main gate? Owner of car number 3770, if you could